Hi, welcome to the inaugural and rather special episode of Job Boosters discussions with industry experts. It's rather special because we're starting off with a discussion with Mr. Victor Van Der Linden, who happens to be the managing director of Job Booster Netherlands. He's traveled to India and he's with us here in Chennai. So, welcome to an inaugural discussion, Victor.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Today, we are going to be talking a little bit about how the green economy is taking off globally and your perspective from where you come from and the different countries that you oversee and the impact of industries and jobs and skills and how the world is moving towards a green economy.
Thanks for this important question. So from my perspective, we have operations in a number of African countries, as well as in India and Bangladesh. To my mind, the transition is there. It's not a matter of if, but rather when, and the speed with which it will take place, which I guess is different in each country. Obviously, there is an impact on the type of skills needed. I mean, we look at it from an employment perspective. So either you need new skills or you need people that are in sectors that become redundant to reskill. There's those two things.
Yeah. What are these industries you see that are growing rapidly and the skills that potentially have greater impact in the years to come?
Right. So this is related to the question of what is a green collar job, right?
Yeah.
That's the nice term we use these days.
Absolutely.
Actually, there's a couple of things hiding behind that. If you look at the definition, there's a couple of sectors behind this. It's about conserving energy, so isolating homes. I mean, I'm from a cold place. It's not something that warm weather countries have to contend with. But isolation, for example, is an example of this type of business. There's reducing pollution, which is significant, I would say, everywhere. You're probably aware with the matter of plastic pollution. It's a very visible one. There's other types. So any technology or business that addresses this qualifies for being a green collar job. And last but not least, this is the obvious example that comes to people's mind, renewable energy. So new fuels, electrification, solar panels, these are things, they are here, they are really gathering momentum. There's countries that have already fully shifted, there's countries that are underway, and this is accelerating. You see, this is something we need to take into account as a company focusing on recruitment, on HR, on creating work for youth.
We as a company, you spoke about insulation of homes because yours is cooler climate, right?
That's right.
We, on the other hand, we are right at the equator and we come from a really warm climate, and it's not just really warm, it's also really humid. So a lot of our efforts goes in cooling.
Yeah.
And a lot of people here are trained in HVAC.
Mm-hmm.
So how would you classify something like that?
There's this, sensitive point of some technologies not contributing, right, to the transition. Generally, you cool using fossil fuels, right? You rely on burning those in order to cool, unless you use renewable energy to generate the electricity. The other thing that comes to mind when addressing this is architecture. Like, how can you make bio-based buildings, for example? How can you make sure there's more natural ventilation so that you don't have to rely on AC, for example? Mm-hmm. And the funny thing is, we've come full circle because traditionally the homes, even in India and in Africa, they used to be able to provide that kind of comfort to their inhabitants.
Yes. So where do you see the role of education or training in enabling youngsters or the youth of our country understand and prepare for these green collar jobs?
I think a lot of young people have is that they have a bit more, let's say, beginner's mind in quite a few matters. They're also more innovative generally. So I'm sure that they can embrace these new technologies, these new ways of working fairly quickly. And I think India, for example, is an excellent example of how you can leapfrog technologies, right? You don't have to go down the old road first until the end. And then realize it was a dead end, come back and start something new, right? So you might as well skip that whole part and start straight away working with energy conservation, working with renewable energy.
From a global perspective, how are different countries handling this reskilling challenge, if I'm going to put it that way?
Or opportunity, right?
Opportunity.
Depends on how you look at it. I would say, it definitely helps if you have a start somewhere. If you see countries like Norway, which is ironically financing this through fossil fuel wealth, they transition really quickly. For example, every new car coming on the road is electric. It's a matter of subsidizing by government. It's a matter also of training the people to maintain these vehicles. So this shift has been pretty rapid. I think there's a role for government. I think there's a bigger role for private sector. And like you say, at the end of the day, it's a mindset thing. But as you know, mindset is influenced by marketing. It's influenced by the message companies give. So it's a matter of choice as well.
Absolutely. From what we see and what we hear, we know that the Indian government is pushing a lot the green energy sector, whether it is as electric vehicles or renewable energy in general. So there will be a need for analyzing and specializing in skills as we go forward, and there should be like major influence of the government at every level, and by every level I mean right from grassroots level, where maybe CSOs and NGOs also get involved in reaching out to people at grassroots level to train and grow in skills and knowledge.
That's right. At least to kickstart. The good thing with a transition is once it's going, it will keep going. Like I said in the beginning, it's a matter of the speed with which these things happen. And to some extent, the debate is a bit easier now for proponents of green economy because the business case is there. Solar energy is cheaper. Renewable energy is cheaper than fossil fuel energy in many places. And with the acceleration of the application of this type of technology, it becomes easier and easier to convince organizations, companies to invest in it. And by extension, they will drive the changes in skills that are needed to power their business.
In India, we're also grappling with this idea of gender diversity. So within this green collar space, do you think that there will be more opportunity for diversity and inclusion?
I would like there to be. To some extent, it's a matter of how you start, right? So why not avoid the pitfall of, let's say, more traditional industries where things are labeled a job for men or a job for women? I think every young person, irrespective of gender, thinks that this is an important topic, has aspirations also to contribute to a better world. So in terms of barriers to entry for young women, for example, I don't think they are found on the mindset level. And I think it's up to organizations like ours and our clients to make space also for women in tech, for women in renewable energy, with the same reasoning. We start something new, we start something good.
And also the government may play a major role in this alongside the private sector.
Again, with the same logic, you need to kick it off. The interesting thing is every industry, every innovation was subsidized. And that is the big debate now, of course, with the fossil fuel industry. These guys are subsidized to the hilt. Everything they do is subsidized, from prospection to production to actually more downstream activities. So I don't see a reason why a government shouldn't act in its own self-interest, by the way, and also direct even a percentage of this subsidy to a more, let's say, sustainable industry.
The way we look at it now as something that we were discussing a little earlier was, now we look at one side of the problem, which we're challenging, which is the challenge of finding the right skills for meeting these green jobs.
Right.
But then at the other side of the coin is also there will be some sort of waste generated from renewable energy as well. Solar panels, batteries, etc.
Right.
Do you think there could be skills that could be developed or technologies that could be developed to face the other challenge of?
Definitely, we have not gotten to the stage yet, I think, as humanity to actually produce something fully cradle to cradle.
Yes.
It'll have to be taken into account. And I think it is right now. If you look at solar panels, the current ones, they're much more easy to recycle. And you can build this into the business case. When you build a solar plant, you decommission it after a certain number of years. The company buys back the solar panels, and you reuse material, right? There's definitely a lot of employment in that as well. So yeah, I see this as an opportunity.
So recycling later downstream could also be...
Yeah, at the risk of sounding like an environmental activist here, building it in to the extent that you can.
Yeah.
But even for the current stuff already out there, right?
Yes.
Come up with solutions. There's a big role for innovation. And like I said, I don't think this is something that we have to push for very hard. It's already happening. We can help it along, I suppose.
Yeah, we diverged a bit from the actual of green collar jobs, but then it's interesting because we also address this at some point of time, almost on a daily basis. We look at it as a company and as an economy on a whole.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah.
So coming back to the jobs questions, how do you see this growing? Do you see it growing at a faster pace than it has already been?
I do. There's the issue of the industries themselves that would qualify as green collar. There's also the matter of greening existing industries, right?
Yes.
And I guess from our expertise, it is attractive to young people wanting to join a company if this particular company is already on board. Yeah. And not in sort of a greenwashing type of way, but in a real way, investing in this better way of doing.
Because we, through our CSR and other ESG initiatives, CSR implementation and ESG initiatives, have come across some companies whose implementation is rather questionable, if you put it.
Right. Yes.
We also see that there are a lot of youth who are really interested, companies that have a positive social impact.
Definitely.
And they themselves want to fit right into those companies because they resonate with the company's values and the company's ethos.
No, in that sense, organizations like ours, we're sensitive to trends on both sides of the labor market, right? Among the youth themselves and among the employers. And obviously it's in our interest to connect both.
Yes.
But I do think this is a good argument, even if a company is not, so much environmentally conscious, for example, it is relying on good employees and on employee retention. So alignment with the values young people have these days, I would say is a good recipe for future-proofing your organization.
Because we come across so many of these studies and trends that talk about how younger generations want to feel more connected with their organization, and one of those ways, if they are environmentally conscious.
Right.
And one of those ways that they also could be environmentally conscious is by having these green collar skills that we're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. It is about walking the walk at the end of the day, right?
Plugs into the CSR job category, if you want to put it that way.
I think
developmental category.
That's right. I think the companies doing the best CSR are the ones that actually integrate it into their business model, getting it very close to core business, if not making it their core business, rather than adding it as an afterthought. If there's more alignment with what a company does and what it stands for, it will have a better license to operate, and it will not have challenges attracting, for example, new clients or new employees.
How do you think that we as a company could also develop a strategy to grow this into a sizable business problem?
I think could look a bit more is on the side of the youth themselves, because they tend to know very well what they want. They may not know exactly what is out there, but if we start more from the aspirations and the values of youth, because we're also advocating on their behalf to a certain extent.
Yes, we do.
Especially if you take this, let's say, with a bit more future-oriented point of view, taking our own company in 5 years or in 10 years, what will be the main topics we recruit on? What would be good skills for us to not only teach, but be able to source, for example, from training institutions. And as you know, we need to be one step ahead of the trend. When the trend is already there, that means a lot of other people have already jumped on the train, right? So anticipating this, and personally, I'm quite excited by places like India because there is a lot of innovation. The principle is not new at all. There are so many resources, not just environmental or natural ones, but especially in terms of workforce, manpower. All this can be channeled into something which is good for the planet. So to me, that is like a full circle proposition.
Absolutely. We at Job Booster have always looked at being that bridge between a lot of these institutions and these companies, right? Something like this also falls right into our park.
Definitely.
And
I mean, we're a social enterprise, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is what we want to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Enablement. So
No,
it can
again,
be enablement of community and now enablement for the betterment of the planet, probably.
That's right. And it means doing a certain number of things. It means perhaps stopping with doing a number of other things. And again, even for us in this industry, it's about walking the walk. If we want to see this greener world, we recruit for it. We apply our skills and we bring them to bear on transformation.
Great talking to you, Victor.
Thank you so much.
Nice to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.